Back here in New York now, we're watching these indictments that now have been made public on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein, who will appear this afternoon before a judge in the Southern District of New York, Manhattan. Apparently the counts, just to look at these briefly, include one, Jeffrey Epstein, defendant, sexually exploited and abused dozens of minors at his homes in Manhattan, New York, Palm Beach, Florida, among other locations. In particular, from about 2002 to 2005 appears to be the period in question. This runs for the indictment itself, now made public, runs for quite a while. So Jeffrey Epstein flew home from Paris into New Jersey late on Saturday on his jet, a 727, and was promptly arrested then. It was not expected, however, now in custody, spent the weekend in jail. He'll be before that judge about 2:30 Eastern time today. So
now to the latest on U.S.-Iran tensions. What remains of the Iran nuclear deal is now on life support, as Iran has declared it will enrich uranium at higher level. The UN Nuclear Agency has announced it'll convene an emergency meeting on the deal this week. Our Kim Ji-yeon has the latest.
The U.S. strongly denounced Iran's move to start enriching uranium beyond the limit set in a 2015 nuclear deal. U.S. President Donald Trump, on his way back to Washington from New Jersey to reporters on Sunday, said the U.S. will continue to impose maximum pressure on Iran unless the nation stops developing nuclear weapons. President Trump withdrew from the 2015 deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, a nuclear multilateral accord intended to limit Iran's civilian nuclear program and prevent it from developing nuclear weapons, and reintroduced economic sanctions on Iran last year.
Iran better be careful, because you enrich for one reason, and I won't tell you what that reason is, but it's no good. They better be careful.
Jobs, security and growth. That's the promise from Kyriakos Mitsotakis, who just saw his conservative New Democracy Party cruise to victory in Greece's election.
Tonight the Greek people have spoken, and the verdict was clear. Our society wants us to go forward in unity. Everyone with no one left behind.
Mitsotakis' victory comes just weeks after the ruling Syriza party suffered two electoral setbacks, both in European and municipal elections, which sparked Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras to call a snap ballot. However, he was unable to regain the initiative in a country where he oversaw deeply unpopular austerity measures amid the financial crisis, despite being elected in 2015 on a promise to resist the imposition of precisely that from Greece's European creditors. While Tsipras conceded the vote, he vowed Syriza would continue in opposition in resisting any rollbacks to pro-Labour reforms.
He calls himself a revolutionary and a soldier, but judges at the International Criminal Court found Bosco Ntaganda is a war criminal who both commanded and committed horrific acts against civilians and child soldiers. After a 3-year trial, Ntaganda was found guilty on 18 charges, becoming only the fourth person ever to be convicted of war crimes by the ICC.
For the reasons I have just summarized, the Chamber, having heard all of the evidence presented by the parties, finds you, as concerns count 1, guilty of murder as crime against humanity, guilty of intentionally directing attacks against civilians as a war crime, guilty of sexual slavery as a crime against humanity.
Ntaganda led a rebel army that fought in the gold-rich Ituri region in the Democratic Republic of Congo's northeast in the early 2000s.
It seems planes never leave the skies over rebel-held northwest Syria. Airstrikes have been relentless. It's day 70 of the Russian-backed Syrian government offensive. The southern countryside of Idlib province and the northern countryside of Hama province are battlegrounds. The bombardment has been intense and indiscriminate. Human rights groups say wide areas in populated neighborhoods have been attacked. Nowhere is safe. Civilians are dying. Rights groups say more than 500 have been killed, more than 100 of them children.
This was the first major demonstration since the storming of Hong Kong's parliament last week, and it proves this dispute isn't going away. Protesters say the change in the law would mean critics of China could be extradited from Hong Kong to face summary justice in mainland courts. The Hong Kong government has suspended the bill, but protesters are still demanding its complete withdrawal. It's also the first time the protesters have taken their campaign to the Kowloon district of Hong Kong. With its luxury stores, the area is a favourite destination for mainland Chinese shoppers, and many seemed bewildered by the crowds of demonstrators.
Hong Kong's okay.
Hong Kong is the only Chinese city that permits demonstrations like this. The organisers said they wanted to tell the visitors about their struggle.
Deliberate and systematic. That is how Amnesty International has described the police-led mass killing of suspected drug users and dealers in the Philippines' war on drugs. The government's official death toll is 5,300, but watchdogs fear the true number could be 4 times as much. Amnesty's new report, published on Monday, calls on the UN to investigate and bring an end to the violence which has raged since Rodrigo Duterte, nicknamed the Punisher, was elected in 2016.
In all the families, witnesses interviewed, the common reaction is, why were they killed like animals? They are not animals.
Amnesty note that the war on drugs has moved on from the capital, Manila, and begun taking grip in the provinces, where underreporting is a problem. The most commonly used drug in the Philippines is a meth-like substance known locally as shabu. It is mostly used by people in poverty as a stimulant to allow long periods of labour.
A man has spent the night in a prison cell after staging a sky-high protest on top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. The bridge breach highlighting significant shortfalls in security measures, despite millions spent keeping watch over our famous landmark.
It was a high-visibility protest on a low-visibility day. This evening, fresh from a jail cell and still dressed in his fluoro vest, Sydney's latest Harbour Bridge protester.
We will fight until our freedom.
Nagi Pizzade pleaded guilty to illegally climbing the Sydney icon yesterday morning. Today, he avoided a jail term. Instead, a magistrate sent him back to his hometown in Victoria, where he will serve 9 months under strict supervision.
People in Australia, I do apologise for all the problem I make for them, and I hope they forgive me.
It's the second time the Iranian national has climbed the Sydney Harbour Bridge, protesting his former home country's oppressive regime.
Well, today marks a pivotal moment for a city in Alberta as it tries to push ahead with a ban on conversion therapy. It's often an abusive practice that purports to turn gay people straight. Michael Serapio is here with all those details. So, Michael, this is a pretty significant vote.
Significant because if St. Albert actually adopts this ban on conversion therapy, it would be the first municipality to do so in Alberta. In fact, it would be doing so ahead of the province. Now, this is really where it begins with the province, because back in the days of Rachel Notley, when she was premier with her NDP government, she did strike up this working group that was supposed to study the possibility of banning the practice province-wide. But with Notley and the NDP defeated in the April election, that working group's mandate collapsed, which is why this initiative is now coming up in St. Albert. And a bit of background here to build on what was said. When it comes to conversion therapy, that is a practice grounded in the belief that a person's sexual orientation or gender identity can be changed.